It's never good to speak after other people speak, but I'll try my best.
You knew it wouldn't take whatever.
Ah, shkayach. Yesterday after Mincha Kailo, a guy came over to me. Someone who I was friends with many years ago. Currently, his path in life has taken interesting turns. But he works in the office that the Kailo is housed out of, and he comes to Mincha every day. Beautiful. And the first day he comes over to me, he asks me my name, and I'm looking at him, and the face is just a face that I've seen many moons ago, and he tells me his name. I'm like, wow, this is like 20 years back. Okay, and he tells me, yeah, but I come and daven every day. I said, it's beautiful. So he comes every day to daven, he stays for a few minutes for a shir. After Mincha yesterday, he says, can I ask you a question? I said, sure. You know that's always going to be a loaded one. So I walk outside with him, and he says, we all know there's halach of lifnei iver. You can't put a stumbling block in front of the blind. So he says to me, so how could God put us in this world? And I give a big gulp, and I search quickly for something intelligent to answer him. And luckily, the following thought hit me. And I said to him, I think your question is a little bit of the answer. I said, because if God put us in this world, Hashem has more faith in you than you have in yourself. If God put us here, then He believes that we're not blind, that He believes that we're not going to stumble, that He believes that we could overcome. And I saw I hit a little bit of a raw nerve, but he understood. I said, but you know, there's one thing you have to realize. We think we just came out of a mincha, we davened for a few minutes. No, we davened. I said, if you were to realize what those few minutes of tefillah really were, if you were to be able to see how Hashem viewed that tefillah, if we were to realize what one amen is, what one time that we say Baruch Atah, we address God, you. We're talking to Him. Atah. Aleph Daled Nun Yud. My Adonai, my Master. If you were to realize how incredible the things that we think are so insignificant, maybe we'd start to believe a little bit more in ourselves. He thanked me. And afterwards, this was the thought that was really playing in my brain. As much as you tell something to someone else, sometimes you hear it yourself a little bit stronger. Do we realize how strong and powerful the actions we do? I mentioned it in Shul at Shalosh Shuddis this past week, and like one of those things again, I mentioned in passing, and it sort of it hit me when I told it to this old friend of mine. So for a few moments, I would like to take this idea and try to allow it to connect us to the time of year we're in, to connect us, we're almost at Slichos, we're halfway through Elul, which means Rosh Hashanah is around the corner, which means we're supposed to, and I think, I'll tell you my feeling, which I hope many of the Chaver here feel together, that we actually are on that path of tshuva. And we are working, and we are trying. So the question is that we all have to answer, how could we actually change? A difficult question. How could we actually change? We sang a song a moment ago, Ki karoi velecha adavar me'oid, b'ficha b'lfavcha la'asaisai. One of the pshatim in the song is tshuva. Tshuva is so close to us. It's beficha, it's in your mouth. I don't know. We could all think out loud together, and I don't think it's so close. I don't think it's so easy. And I'll give you the biggest proof. We're doing the same thing. We have the same issues, and we keep on falling. So how can it be that tshuva is so easy? So let's try to understand. It's a Maral. The Maral explains what tshuva is. Obviously, everything we're going to say is dots of what we can really talk about for hours. But the Maral says that why do we fall? Why do we stumble? A very simple question, and the answer is even simpler. Because the disconnect between brain and heart is a million light years away. In our brain, we know what to do, yes. In our brain, we know what the right actions are. If we were to hit that freeze button and zoom out of our own life and look at each action, we'd always make the right choice. But when we hit play, we don't. Because the difference from the brain to the heart, something that we had mentioned, the melech, the moyach, the leiv, the kaved, that the correct actions are supposed to be filtered from the top down. But the world we live in, as this Yid asked me, how could Hashem put us here? And it's a real good question. Rav Matisyahu Salomon has said many times that the air that we breathe sucks people away. When they asked him, how can we explain the phenomenon? We're losing kids. And he said, it's not the parents, it's not the yeshivas, it's none of the above. It's in the air. What does that mean? I'm sure everyone could have a different explanation. But very simply, the world around us is difficult and it sucks us in. So how could we try to reconnect the brain to the heart? How could we try to reorient ourselves a little bit? And how can we try to make it a little bit practical so that hopefully we could start to realize the incredible actions that we indeed do every day and allow us to enter into Slichos, enter into Rosh Hashanah different people. So I saw a fascinating idea. I heard a line, and then I saw an idea, and I think that's what we could begin working on. The Tzemach Tzedek, Rav Yossi afterwards will give the whole biography and connect us, connect all the, for everyone, connect everyone together over here. The grandson of the Baal HaTanya, of course. Tzemach Tzedek says a line. We have Rosh Hashanah every single day. When we say Shema, Baruch Shem, and we're Makabel Ol Malchus Shamayim, that is Rosh Hashanah. And Rosh Hashanah is 48 hours of Shema and Baruch Shem. A deep line. Gives us a bit of a perspective what a Rosh Hashanah should look like. Maybe a goal, somewhere that's very, very high and far from us. But something that sometimes, if the goal is very, very high and far, it could at least lead you on the right path. That what's a Rosh Hashanah? 48 hours of Shema Yisrael. 48 hours of Baruch Shem. And this is the idea that we're going to be speaking about a lot about, how Rosh Hashanah is Malchus, is coronating Hashem. Something that we'll have to come back to. So how can we tap into this today on a bit of a practical level in preparation for Slichos, in preparation for Rosh Hashanah? So we blow shofar in Rosh Hashanah. Why do we blow shofar in Rosh Hashanah? Tiku b'chodesh shofar b'keseh liyom chagim. Says the Gemara, b'keseh means when it's hidden. We blow shofar at the time of the month when it's hidden. What does that mean? It means the one yontif, I don't know if anyone has ever thought about this, the only yontif that is in our Jewish calendar when the moon is hidden is Rosh Hashanah, the beginning of the month. So we blow shofar, Rosh Hashanah is the beginning of the month. That's a Gemara. Okay. So we learned the Gemara, check. Now we know when Rosh Hashanah is the beginning of the month, the beginning of a year. Let's go a little bit deeper. The moon. What's the moon? The moon is Klal Yisrael. The moon is each and every one of us. What does that mean? The moon is a reflection. There's nothing onto itself. It reflects everything around it. But more importantly, is the moon waxes and wanes in scientific terms, in contemporary colloquial terms, it gets bigger and smaller. The moon gets big, the moon gets small. The moon gets big, the moon gets small. That is Klal Yisrael. And that is really the life of each and every one of us. There are moments when we're large, we're big, we're on top of it, we're rocking, we're learning, we're davening. And then almost inevitably it starts to shrink and shrink and shrink and shrink. Until one day we wake up and we're like, oy, the moon is nowhere, it's dark, there's no light. And then slowly we get back up and we build and we push, and then the moon gets bigger and bigger. And that's Klal Yisrael. That's the whole history of Klal Yisrael. It's large. Klal Yisrael's on top. And then it falls and falls and falls. Then it gets back up. And that's the way it's going to be until Mashiach comes. So what's Rosh Hashanah? Is when we're hidden and concealed to crown God as King. That line is the Avodah, is the way to try to reconnect our brain. Let's say it again. When we're hidden and concealed to crown God as King. So in Klal Yisrael, what that means is Rosh Hashanah is when Klal Yisrael is hidden and concealed, and we're crowning Hashem as King. Do the Goyim know that we're making Hashem our King? No, but we are. We say it throughout all of davening. We're making Hashem over King, over us, over everyone, over all the cosmos. They don't know it. But in our personal lives, when we're hidden and concealed, we have to find avenues to crown Hashem as King. Which Rav Tzadok says that's really what we do every day by Shema. Is what are we doing? We're closing our eyes. We're in our own little world. We're hidden and we're concealed right now. And we say, Baruch Shem Hashem, you are the King. So which actions are the most difficult actions to do? When you're not with other people. When you're with everyone else, you daven because you're in shul. You learn because there's a shiur. You do a chesed because everyone's giving money to the charity page. But when no one's looking and that guy knocks on your door, when no one else is learning and you're in the shul by yourself, when the front door closes and it's just you and your wife, how do you talk then? How do you act then? When it's concealed, when no one is looking in, those are the actions that build us up internally, and those are each an action of Kabbalas Ol Malchus Shamayim. Because when no one's looking and you just finished having your pizza, your sandwich, and you sit down and you take out a bencher and you bench, does anyone know what you just did? No one. You didn't take a picture and post it anywhere. Your kids didn't see. Your wife didn't see. No one knows what you just did. So what did you do? You, in your own private life, just went and you crowned Hashem as King. Because why else did you just bench? Why else did you just open the bencher and spend 3 minutes saying thank you Hashem for the amazing food? Because you believe that God runs the world, He is our King, and you're going to spend a few minutes connecting to Him. And the Maral says that's why when we daven, why do we put the talis over our head? And Rosh Hashanah specifically, many people go in the talis. What are you doing? Says the Maral, you go in your talis, you block out the whole world. And now there's this private moment. No one else is under your talis. There's stories of great tzaddikim, different people who try to sneak under the talisim to see what's going on. No one else knows what's going on there. It's you and Hashem. So if we were to focus on the private moments, and these are actually the moments that make us great. We know that in the non-Jewish world, celebrities, public figures, the more you get into their private quarters, the more you realize that they're not so great, that they're not so incredible. Whereas our Gedalim, our Rabbanim, our Rabbeim, the more you get to know them, you're blown away. I thought I knew everything about this Rav, and then I find out that he's 3 hours all night dealing with Shalom Bayis problems across the world. That's why he's incredible. I thought he was amazing, and then I find out that he's waking up 2 hours before the shiur that he's giving and learning. Those are the private moments that make each and every one of us and can make each and every one of us incredible. And those are in reality the moments that in our own life, with no one looking, we're going to crown Hashem as king. At one time I was walking to the Kaisel on a Friday night, and in front of me I saw an older Yid. At the moment I didn't know who he was. And I'm watching, and he's walking with the garbage. Normal thing in Eretz Yisrael. A few moments later, I realized it's Rav Peretz Tarshish. Tremendous chabur on the mir. His wife is Rebbetzin Tarshish, also very famous. And he's sitting taking out the garbage. Okay, normal thing, right? So I'm behind him, and I see him. He goes to the garbage, he picks it up, and he puts it in the garbage. Everything is regular. And then, what does every normal Jew do? Continues walking. What does a great person do? He looks around the garbage, and he sees that some people, obviously, they thought the garbage was full. So they left their bags around the garbage. And he proceeds, he didn't realize I was watching, and one by one to throw out the garbage. And he picks up one bag, and it gets all over him. And he's just smiling, and he's throwing out everyone else's trash. And he wipes himself off, and he walks into yeshiva. He thought no one saw him. That's a private moment. He sat there and he said, I'm going to do a chesed. I'm going to sit here and make Hashem king. Picking up a piece of garbage, cleaning up after someone else. Things that no one will ever know about. But those are the moments that in our own life, we have the ability to stop and take that Shema Yisrael moment. To take the Tzemach Tzedek's Rosh Hashanah and slowly start expanding it. Because if you just walk into Rosh Hashanah and think, I'm going to be able to live for 48 hours as Hashem my king, or maybe slowly but surely, we find different times throughout our day to bench when no one's looking, to do the chesed when no one sees, to give tzedakah when no one's going to know about it. Which tefillah is greater? The Shemona Esrei with Kavanah when the whole shul is watching you, or when you're sitting behind your desk and you pause for a moment when you saw that someone was sick, and you stopped and you said a kapitel of Tehillim, and you didn't respond saying, I just said a kapitel of Tehillim. That's so much greater, because those are things that build you up internally, and those are actions that slowly but surely crown Hashem as king, and perhaps even more importantly, bring Hashem into our lives. So hopefully, the bracha, the tefillah, is that we're almost at Slichos. We're marching towards Rosh Hashanah. Let's start realizing the actions we do. Let's start giving ourselves credit. Let's start appreciating. We davened. We said something nice. We didn't yell at the guy even though we really wanted to. We didn't scream at our spouse even though maybe they deserved it. We didn't hit the kid even though they certainly deserved it. We gave a little extra tzedakah even though I wasn't able to. I learned for 5 minutes when I was so tired that what I learned, I don't even know. Was it Gemara? Was it Chumash? I don't even know. But I pushed myself because I know that I could do it. And I pushed a little harder. And I did a little bit more. And realized how incredible these actions are. No, we're not blind. No, God did not put us in a world to fall into a hole. Hashem believes in us more than each and every one of us believe in ourselves. And every moment when we say Shema Yisrael, aside from pausing and actually Shema Yisrael, Hashem's our king, maybe take a moment and think, there's a moment in today that I'm going to find a moment to make God my king. And if every day when we say Shema, we slowly realize what we're doing. Pay attention. Aside from the fact that you're doing a mitzvah d'oraisa, but pay attention. You're crowning Hashem as king. And find moments in your life to continue expanding God's kingdom. Ultimately, we'll walk into Slichos, different people. We'll start davening, which we'll talk about. And the greatest dream is we'll walk into Rosh Hashanah and we'll take that massive crown and put it on Hashem's head, Kaviyachol. But more importantly, the Tiku Ba'chodesh Shofar, the Shofar, the ultimate Shofar of Mashiach, Emir Tashem, will be blown this year.
Oh, man,